that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke. Never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke. On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke. Never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke.
Stroke could be you. It happened to me. Never thought it could happen to me.
On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke. Never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke. On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke. Never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Today is another episode of You're Too Young to Have a Stroke. Whew. A week has gone by so quickly. We're back. You know, I have my partner in crime, the beautiful, the luscious, the gorgeous, the intelligent Christina. How you doing, my sister?
Good evening. Hi, everyone.
You know, we do this every week because we want to give back to the community. You know, a lot of people ask us questions about, you know, how we did this, how we got back to who we are today. And we thought it was fitting that we actually built up a podcast, and we came up with this one called You're Too Young to Have a Stroke. You know, a lot of people think about stroke survivors as older people, and we just wanted to make sure that the younger generations that's actually getting this actually understand what this is. And today is no different. We're going to be talking about a pretty interesting thing that I didn't even know existed until Christina brought it to my attention. It's called Disability Pride. And Disability Pride Month is actually in the month of July. So we want to talk about a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. First thing we'll be talking about is the visual disabilities. But before we get into all of that, Christina, can you please, for our audience, explain what the Disability Pride Month is about, how it's oriented, and what does it stand for? Because I think people are confused when I say it right now.
Well, again, happy Disability Pride Month to everyone. Disability Pride on July 26, 1990 was signed into effect. And what you're seeing up on the screen now is the actual flag, each color representing different disabilities. So the green is for sensory disabilities, blue psychiatric disabilities. And if you notice, Greg bit off my style. We're both wearing whites because we're representing what we'll be speaking about today, which is the non-visible and undiagnosed disabilities. Next week, we'll actually be speaking about the yellow, which is the cognitive and intellectual disabilities. And then, of course, we have the pink, which is the physical disabilities. So the way that they really break that down is that as you see the lines cutting across, that is supposed to signify the barriers that separate the disabled from the society. The black surrounding no stripes, that's in reference to the mourning of the ableist violence and abuse victims. And the disability spans borders between states and nations. And I am very prideful this month and every day that I'm able to open my eyes to be able to bring awareness, not only for other young stroke survivors, but for those who aren't able to, who may be dealing with additional disabilities that I may not be dealing with and not being able to represent themselves. And that's another big reason why you and I wanted to do this, you know, being young stroke survivors and having very little people who look like us. Well, no one looks like me, but having a little, you know, not having a lot of representation. It's my spirit. It is my spirit. And I wanted that. I wanted that not only for myself, but I wanted to bring that forth to other people. And I know you've been doing this way longer than I have. You know, you started with your ABM superhero. You've really been out there and advocating. So us having this platform and seeing the response from people, um, on here, on Instagram, on Facebook, where they're really engaged. And that makes this all worth it. That makes worth every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. making sure that I brush my teeth so we can be on live.
So you don't brush your teeth every
I
other
do
day?
decent voice, of course I do.
I know you do. I know you do, my sister. So, Christina, with this invisible disability, people might be wondering why us as stroke survivors are talking about this invisible disability stuff. Why is it relevant for us to even talk about it? I know for myself, it really hits home because it's like, to me, it's like a blessing and a curse. I am a stroke survivor, but usually when people think about stroke survivors, they think about someone that can't speak properly, or they don't have access to their arm or their legs anymore. But they don't think about that the stroke itself has nothing to do with any other part of your body but your brain. It's actually destroying some parts of your brain, and the brain functions or controls everything else inside of your body. So sometimes when you have a stroke, the effects is visible, that a person can't speak properly, have aphasia, or they can't swallow, or they can't uh, articulate themselves, they can't walk or anything like that. But sometimes they're invisible. And that's the blessing and the curse of this thing here. Like, people look at us and it's like, "Yeah, you guys look great. I can run a marathon with you. I could lift weights with you. I could do all these things with you." But they don't realize that we have invisible disabilities. Now, for me, my invisible disability is balance, and it's very hard for me to carry things up and down stairs, or do things that it looks like that I can do. And that becomes a problem. Do you have that same type of issue with your visible disabilities?
Well, my invisible disability is that I am partially blind. Um, I am blind in my right eye. Um, not so much balance. Obviously, it's vision and not seeing things. I know in the early stages of recovery, when I was in the rehab, learning how to walk up and down stairs again, um, being able to walk and kind of feel your senses. One thing I can say, with losing partial vision, my other senses are like tripled heightened.
Really?
Um, Absolutely. I can hear anything. I mean, I could hear, whispers when my girlfriend's saying stuff underneath her breath in the other room. I pick that up.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
must have a good
I'm
microphone.
sorry. I'm sorry. I want to know if you can hear that.
As loud as you are, it's very uncommon to hear you whisper. Look at that. But anyways, my sense of smell is heightened, my sensitivity, and that's where that whole energetic thing that I talk about, even my sense of feeling people, feeling their energy, everything is so heightened. And I absolutely equate that to losing vision, where my brain picked that up, so everything else is so heightened.
Yeah, I had that same thing too, Christina. I didn't really equate it to my invisible disabilities, but I had some of my other senses very, very much acute than it was before. Smell was at an all-time high, but some of my other senses were down. But it was, mine was balanced, so it wasn't sight. So, I didn't really equate it to that. I just thought, because when I had my brain injury or my stroke, I just tapped into something different. I didn't know that, the sensory was actually adjusted based off of, you saying off your blindness, partially blindness. But let me ask you something, Christine, because this is what throws me off when it comes to invisible disabilities. Like, I have to prove that I have an invisible disability. Does do you have that same type of problem? And if so, how do you actually deal with that?
I know that when I was going through the recovery stage, I attempted um, disability, and the amount of tests, deny exams, and all these things I had to go through, which oddly enough, my left eye, I have 20/20 vision. So it winded up, I got denied, which I'm sure the majority of people do, right? They say that you have to apply more than one. I didn't have time for it. Um, I don't feel like I have to, I think it's something that I kind of put out there pretty early on. Um, because I don't, if somebody's walking to my on my right, I'm very quick to be like, hey, I need you on the other side, or um don't sneak up on me on the right hand side, or like don't whisper to me on this side because I'm blind. So but I feel things before they get to me. So again, my senses are heightened. I don't feel like I've been in situations where I had to prove that I was partially blind, honestly. And I'm assuming you've been in situations where you had to prove that you had balance issues, or you feel like you were asked to do things and were placed in a position where you had to kind of put that out there again.
Yeah, the latter. I never have to prove anything. Explaining, yes. And also explaining in the moment, yes. And that is very difficult for me because people don't understand what has happened to us. And I'm gonna give you examples, and hopefully this might, translate to something that might happen to you or anybody in our audience. But before I go further, guys, make sure that you like and subscribe us on our Instagram page, on our YouTube page, and also our Facebook group. We have some great content. Christina put some great content out there every week about questions that she want to know from you guys. If you guys don't know anything about us, feel free to go there. If you want to know whenever we're going to do a show, on our YouTube page, You're Too Young to Have a Stroke, and also on our Facebook group named the same name. So with that, Christina, it's weird because people automatically assume if you had a stroke, like I was talking about earlier, you can't walk, you can't talk, those things. But once they don't see those things anymore, they think you're completely recovered. And that is the misconception of what happens when you have a stroke. There's a lot of things that's going on behind the scenes. So a person will look at me and be like, oh, Greg, you're strong. So you can pick up something. So if you could pick up something, that means you can walk with it too. You could go up steep hills with it. Like, no, just because I'm strong, I could be stationary and pick up 200 pounds. That's nothing for me. But picking up 200 pounds and walking up the stairs, that's a different story altogether. And people they don't correlate that together. For me, just going up and down the stairs is a blessing that I don't fall down the stairs each and every time I look at my feet and go up the stairs. Uh, People take that for granted. They don't understand it because people be running up and down the stairs. So they don't know how to actually adjust to me. And that is the major problem that I have. It's not about even explaining it or proving it. It's just understanding what is going on. And as stroke survivors, it's hard for us to explain those things, especially in the early phases of our recovery, because a lot of the stuff is really mushed inside of our head. We don't know how to speak properly, or if it's coming out, and sometimes our frustration shows and our person gets frustrated back with us. And that is the major problem that I see with people with, these invisible disabilities, not even stroke survivors, just invisible disabilities altogether. The first thing they will say to me is, you're faking it or you're blaming it on your stroke. I'm like, I don't know how I'm faking this. I don't know how I'm blaming it. And trust me, I get it. There is times that we want to have pity parties for ourselves, but there are certain times that we don't have pity parties. Do you agree with that or no?
Absolutely. I always say that, and I tell all my friends this all the time, it's okay to not be okay.
Hmm.
Um, it's not okay to not want to be not okay. I know that's such a tongue twister, but they get it and I get it. Meaning it's okay to have those moments,
Right.
it's okay to get down on yourself. Um, and that's, I think, something that maybe others don't really, who aren't dealing with these things, may not understand, is that your frustrations at times is it's nothing compared to what I'm already putting on myself. you know your frustration with me compared to how I feel about myself already and the things I'm going through internally doesn't really compare. But you have to be able to want more. And how do you do that? You have to have hope with yourself. You have to know that at this moment you may not be able to really explain what it is that you're going through. And that's something you mentioned to me the other day, because I do it a lot. I mean, I do it on this podcast. And believe me, speaking about that, invisible disabilities, people will look at us, if they just swipe by, they see you, and then they see me, right? And they'll be like, oh, it looks like, a guy, girl, not realizing, and maybe if they don't read the title or anything, like, we're stroke survivors. I'm blind. You have balance issues, invisible disability. Um, Being able to do this podcast, it takes a lot for us.
Yeah, it does.
No, it does. And I want to make sure I bring that to light. It takes a lot.
It does.
My video reels, like, to the point where I have to time it out and redo it. And again, with being partially blind, looking at the angles and you know, with you, just us, both, it takes a lot for us to do this. And I know for me, I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, all that it takes to do this is for a purpose. And my purpose, I feel, because I was blessed to still be able to speak and to sit here and to be able to videotape and still partially see what I'm doing, to bring awareness
Right,
and to,
right, right.
you know, to speak for those that can and to see for those that can. And for you, I'm sure walking, you may have balance issues, but you can walk,
All right, we
right?
got some comments coming in, Christina, and
Uh-oh.
hopefully you can actually see them and actually bring them up and make
He's not
us.
making fun of me.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm not making fun of you, sister. But we have some comments, and hopefully
Okay.
we can answer them the best way we can.
Destiny, hey guys. I was wondering, when is it appropriate to disclose that you have an invisible disability?
Ooh, disclose to who? That's the question. Who should we disclose it to? Someone we're dating, or just disclosing to people in general? Destiny, if you can actually put that in there question, if you want to answer both or anyone, that'll be great for us. But what do you think right now when she's
I was
coming?
trying to think about myself. Dating, I know with dating my current partner, I was very open, um, and disclosed those things very early on. Um, I think it really depends on what the situation is. I say that because I feel like when you're putting that, especially like an invisible disability in the upfront, it, unfortunately, there's stigma as soon as you hear the word disability. You yourself on the Facebook said, well, I don't know about the word disability. And I'm like, there's such a stigma to it. As soon as you hear disability, whether or not it says invisible prior. And with that being said, why is that, Greg? Why do you have a thing with the word disability?
Because it's saying that there is that the prefix of is this mean not able to. I'm not able to do something, and I don't see it that way. I'm just at this particular time, I'm not able to do it. It's not a permanent fixture with me. So when I say I am disabled, it sounds like that is a permanent fixture for me. Um, and it's more psychological for me than anything else. Uh, to really answer that question, I just think it's a label that the government has put on us. They'll say that you're handicapped or that you're disability checks because you're disabled, and that's what you are supposed to go by because that's what Social Security says is who you are at this particular point. I'm not going to actually sign up and say this is who I am. This is who I am at this particular moment, but sooner or later, or mentally, I'll be something different. I think Destiny came up with a response to our questions. Let me see what she said.
Like to friends, family, people you're going to be close with that know you're a stroke survivor, but maybe they don't know all the details. Greg?
For me, it's instant. You know, I tell people straight up from my family and friends that know me already, they understand it. I do have to explain it sometimes, or they will see it eventually through in conversations. But I had this interesting conversation with one of my friends, and I had to let them know that the energy that you're coming with, I'm not with. Because long story short, I had this conversation. I was asking this person, one of my good friends, a question, and we go into very deep questions and conversations. And the way I asked him the question, he got defensive with me, and he started saying derogatory words about my viewpoint. And I had to remind him, like, hey, man, it takes me a long time to articulate, to process words. And I'm not fighting you. I'm coming to you because I love you and I want you to give me your honest opinion. What your opinion is, I might not agree with it, but I'm not going to make fun of it. And I would like you to do the same for me. So after I did that, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really mean it. It just got over me. I'm really into, like you was talking about, energy. I'm really into energy, and I can see how fast energy switches from a positive side to a negative or hatred side. So I noticed that was happening, and by me having these invisible disabilities, these processing problems. I like you was talking about, you hone in or your other senses are tuned in. I'm very sensitive to energy now. So once I feel the energy start shifting, I know how to stop and realign it to turn from a negative place to a positive place. So I to answer your question, Destiny, I tell people soon as I get in contact with them, I talk to them and I will tell them, we shouldn't be this way. This is how I am. And I know you might have some issues or problems with your life before, but I don't deal with this particular way like this. I have problems with my balance. I have problems with my processing. I know you don't see it. I know you might think it's funny or you think I'm making a joke, but this is how it is. And can you respect it? And if that person can't respect it, that means I have to move forward and not deal with that person. I don't like to wait 3 or 4 weeks to disclose who I am. I want you to know who I am straight up. So you're going to make a decision if you want to deal with me or not. And if you don't like who I am and how I'm doing things, peace. You can walk on. I'm not going to play that game with anybody. That's my answer, Christina.
Well, okay. Hey, the truthful, right? Transparency.
There it is. There it
Very.
is. What about you? What about you when it comes to friends and family? Do you have that same type of thought process?
I actually don't put that much energy into it, honestly. I'm kind of the opposite, where if I feel that the energy from jump is just not worth me giving that energy, I'm not going to. I don't feel like I need to explain to someone in depth that I have a brain injury and
Okay.
here are some of my deficits. I don't go that deep into it. And that's probably why I don't talk to a lot of people. And my circle's pretty small because I think that, um, we're in a time now where you can Google anything. Do I really have to tell you that I have brain trauma and how it affects you, and you're still holding any type of accountability of someone who may not have gone through a brain trauma? That's okay. I just leave it alone. I don't give it that energy, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-mm. No, I think the only time I would even put that much energy into it is if I I feel really connected to you. Um, I think it takes a lot of energy to be able to formulate words and to explain yourself and explain what you're going through. And half the time, what the things that we're thinking about or trying to explain don't make sense, because we're trying to figure those out. And that's energy you don't get back, because then what? If I take all that time and that energy that I release and do that and I'm still getting the same feedback, like, I don't have, I wouldn't say patience. I just don't have that energy to waste. That's how I feel. I don't think that's a wrong thing. I think it's important. It's important to think and put yourself first. I've always been a giver of energy, always, my entire life. And with this, you know, second portion of my life, I mean, it took me some time to really tap into that, but um I will not put myself second in spare of giving you that additional energy that I need for myself, because I do need that.
So what are
I
we telling our audience? Because we have two different viewpoints on that. What
We're
would
telling
we
our audience to read the room. That's
read
what
the
we're
room?
telling them. Read the room. If something feels off for you, it's off. Trust yourself. Going back to some of our other topics we've had in the podcast, like, whether or not you can trust yourself, because,
Yeah.
you're still going through healing. All of those things. I mean, I just recently posted a whole bunch of videos, from my past vacation. And I was very particular. Women in general, when we post, are very particular about our tags, but I made sure I chose ones that really represented the people and the experiences that I was going through in those videos, one of which was stay around people who feel like sunlight. Sunlight is amazing, it's energizing, it's freeing. Be around people that make you feel that way, who get excited to see you, who, when you answer the phone, you can tell they're so excited to speak to you. All those things are important. Wrapping that all up, find your tribe. That's
So
right. That's what we're telling. Read the room.
read the room. So that's something interesting. You're basically telling people, and I think that could be good advice for non-stroke survivors and stroke survivors alike. Read the room. People lie, words don't words lie, numbers never lie, and the energy never lies. So read it. Read what's actually coming out from that energy. Because I know there's been times, and you lived up in the northeast part of the United States.
Mhm.
You've been into certain type of places, and you're like, oh, this is a bad place. Something bad is going to happen,
Exactly.
and I got to get
Correct.
out of here. And nobody said a word. You just could feel it. Or you've been in rooms like, whoa, this is my type of place, and it was just a song being played, nothing else, and you just know that there's going to be a place of tranquility for you. So it's the same thing that we have within our life. You get involved with people, you notice like, oh, this person means me no good. I need to get away. So what you're saying, Christina, is this: read the room, feel that energy, and that energy is not lying to you. It's your safety blanket. Even if your
Absolutely.
mind is even at mush, your energy tells you what's happening around you. Is that right?
Absolutely. We're talking about invisible disabilities, but that's reading the room and reading energy is an invisible ability.
Hmm. Okay, speak on that. Speak on that.
Okay.
I know you
That'll be
have.
a real. Wrap it up. We already know.
Okay.
It is. It's an invisible ability to be able to read that and to read the room. You know, somebody doesn't have to tell you that. You know, they're just not feeling you. You feel that. You feel it.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. I hear you on that. So even with that even being said, with this invisible disabilities, as you said, there are some abilities that's been more heightened for you. What would you tell somebody as a stroke survivor that has invisible disabilities and haven't realized those other talents or other senses that actually been heightened, enhanced them? How would you explain to them how to explore that?
Do research. You know, tap into things. Read. If you're able to read, if you're not able to read, listen to audio.
Mhm.
Um, listen to videos. Is similar to watching this podcast, right? You're learning about young stroke survivors and how they're navigating through life. There is absolutely plenty of information out there in reference to tapping into, your invisible abilities um, all over the internet, you know? So do your research.
Okay, do your research. And with me, I started doing that meditation, and once I started doing meditation, I could start feeling the different parts of my body that was aching, or the parts of me that was lacking mentally, spiritually, and things of that nature. I'm really want you to dive into it because I really love when you start talking about your powers that you actually have. And I think you'd be playing coy a lot with your powers. And there is something that happened with you. You said you became partially blind, but to me, I think something else happened with you. You became physically partially blind, but spiritually, like your third eye or something just opened up and like you see more than you actually physically can actually see. Am I off with that, or is
Not at
something
all.
happened with you that you became more acute with your senses of spirituality?
Absolutely. And I believe that my third eye, do you see
Bam!
that lovely scar? I've always had my third eye and it's perfectly centered on my forehead. Do you see that? No, but that was for polio string cheese, by the way, in the Bronx. Risk
Okay.
my life for some cheese, baby. Um,
Okay. For string cheese, I got you.
string cheese, but to answer your question, absolutely. Um, and I don't think I play coy with it. I'm just very careful of it because I know that that energy is not for everyone and
Right.
it doesn't need to be. That's really for me. I'm still within my recovery journey. I need that for me. Again, that energy is brought out when I tap into people. I tapped into you, when you were in a hospital, but for the most part, it keeps me safe. And when it's needed for me to explore more, I will absolutely do that. But I absolutely tapped into something. I don't know what it was, but there's definitely invisible abilities.
You know,
I'm
you know,
not 100%. What was that lady's name? Cleo? Cleo?
call me
I
now.
I feel when something's off with people, or even positive things, I can just really tap into that. That's why I'm very careful as far as the energy that I keep around me. And because I'm an empath. I suck that all up. I don't want that negativity.
Now, the reason
So
why I brought that up, Christina, is not to put you on Front Street or anything like that, but
of course not.
of course not. That's the secondary reason why I did that, not the first reason. But the main reason why I did that is so people could understand that, like you have that ability to tap into something that you couldn't or wasn't able to tap in that strongly before. Um, I am able to do things like I do these caregiver baskets each and every month, and I don't use my invisible disability as a crutch. I keep on moving forward, and I embrace who I am. Even with this invisible disability, I embrace who I am to move forward in my life. And the reason why I brought yours up is so people could see that they could have other things that they probably didn't have before, that's been brought to their attention now, and they're much stronger with that ability now than they were before they even had their stroke. So, if anybody's watching this is depressed because um, they can't walk properly, or they can't articulate things or process things fast, or they have anger issues and they don't know why they're angry. Well, yeah, that could be very bad, but there's other things that's probably come to your attention that you're probably neglecting. And if you hone into those skills, it can make you a better person, help you out with your recovery process. So that's the reason why I brought that up, because a lot of times I hear people say, I'm depressed and nothing's going right for me. I can't do this anymore. I'm like, what can you do now that you couldn't do before? And once they think about it, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I could do this, I could do that. And it helps me out each and every day. So keep on focusing on that. And that will help you get better dealing with your invisible disabilities. Do you have anything to add to that, Christina, or am I off with that?
No, absolutely. Tuning in, I think that it's important to not look at spending time alone as a negative thing as well. When you hear that you're going through recovery and you're surrounded by people, I know for me, I was surrounded by family, and I'm very grateful for that. Um, when it was time for me to be alone and have my alone time is really when I was learning about myself and trying to understand this invisible disability, being partially blind and going through therapy. Of course, it's easy. You have somebody there. Oh, I had to wear that belt. Oh, the belt. Did you have a safety belt that you had to wear? I hated it.
The gate belt?
I don't know. The belt that if you're gonna fall, people
Yeah, the
can grab.
gate belt. They
What
grab
is
the
it?
gate, GAIT.
Oh, I called it the safety belt. Um, Ruins all my outfits. I'll have to show you some pictures. I was really embracing this whole one eye thing. Okay. I started getting colored patches. Um, I believe I got it as a gift, if I'm not mistaken. I got a whole bunch of color eye patches. So I was coordinating my outfits to my eye patch
I can
because I
see
was
that.
very
Yeah.
I was very self-conscious because my eye would wander, before I started going to therapy to help, with my eyes. Um, and I say this to say that I had to find somewhere in there the positivity. I knew I was not getting my vision back. That wasn't coming back. You have to mourn that. You have to, and you're able to. A lot of these invisible disabilities not only are okay, me with vision, but they're what we'll be speaking about next week, cognitive. You're going through a lot, but you have to mourn that and somehow embrace what is still there or what new things are there. And you do that by spending time alone. You see how I started speaking about that, then I went somewhere else.
It's
Forgive
all
me,
good.
but follow me. It's not a bad thing to have time alone to relearn yourself. You know, if you're feeding off of other people's energies, and if you're a person that takes what people say, and especially during this recovery process, it's going to prolong your recovery journey. So take time by yourself. I know you mentioned you journal, meditate, but relearn yourself and relearn your abilities that you gained from your disabilities.
Christina, I want to go into something. And Mr. Doja said hello. Hello, Mr. Doja. How you doing, sir? Mr. Doja
Hey.
is a recording artist that actually made our intro song. So if you want to hear it, you check him out. He's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think he's on not Snapchat. What is that called? TikTok at Mr. Doja. And you could just find him and look at the different songs that he actually have out there as well. But Christina, you said something very, very interesting to me. You said you have to I guess mourn your invisible disabilities and get past it, move forward from that. You know, once you started designing, getting different eye patches for your eye to match your accessorize your outfits and different things of that nature. You know, I did the same exact thing, but not eye patches. I had a funeral. I had a funeral for my old self, and I took the things that I had that I was able to do before, and I buried them, sold them, burned them, whatever. And that helped me move forward instead of just constantly having that reminder of things that I cannot do anymore. I got rid of it. Like, I look like I can still play basketball, but I can't play basketball. So I got rid of the basketballs. You know, I got rid of things that was very sentimental to me that didn't apply to me anymore. I was married. I got rid of my wedding rings. I got rid of a lot of things that brought back those memories to me that made it hard for me to actually move forward because I was having so much trouble with my processing, so much trouble with my balance. I also have diabetes. I have all these things that's going on with me. So I had to get rid of that stuff to focus and concentrate on being a better person that I am and going forward each and every day. Now, for you, did you have some type of ritual that you actually been through to actually mourn or to say, okay, I have this invisible disability. I know it's not going to change, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to let it ruin my life. I'm moving forward. Did you do something like that?
I got rid of all my eye patches, every single one. I feel that for me, that morning happened after my checkup, after having surgery to attempt to regain vision. I know I spoke about it on the show before, but I knew that the chances of me regaining vision were very, very low. And I still attempted. But I even knew while surgery, I knew it wasn't coming back, but it was kind of like I needed that actual situation to confirm like it's not coming back. Um, Shortly after that follow up where there was no improvement, and then given the chance, given the option of going in through another surgery and then hearing the possibility, I was like, nah, I'm okay. I mean, I wasn't okay, but I was okay. I mourned it. It's over. So I need to keep moving forward. And, wearing an eye patch is not, I was bringing so much more attention to myself. I was freaking out over my disability, where even now, right, the majority, my invisible disability, unless I tell people, or if they're really looking at me, you can't tell that I'm blind. But wearing an eye patch for myself, not only was I letting everybody know on a consistent basis when they walk past me, because the first thing you're going to think about is like, why is she wearing an eye patch? but her face, she's got makeup on and stuff. But for me as well. And that's the day that I got rid of all my eye patches is when I mourned it. And I said that, you know, my eye goes funny, it's gonna go funny. It goes funny sometimes, especially when I read.
So
I go like that.
you don't like people feeling sorry for you. You don't want to bring attention to yourself.
I don't want any sympathy. I want understanding. There's a huge difference.
Hold on. Hold on. I got something with that now.
That's a word.
I know it is a word, but how can someone understand what you're going through?
By listening.
They can empathize, but how can they understand? Like, and follow along with me. Like, I'm gonna say a woman. Most women that I know, I wouldn't say all, but most women I know go through a menstrual cycle each and every month. You could tell me about it. You could tell me what actually happens, but I don't have a clue. I don't really understand what it is all about. I can
Okay.
empathize with you, but I don't understand that. So how can someone understand your invisible disability?
Listening and comprehension are two different things. You can, right? And I said by listening, even if they want it, cover your eye.
I guess they could do practices.
Seriously, cover your eye. Cover your eye and go throughout your day. Put an eye patch on and go throughout your day. Cover your eye and work off 3 computer screens. Cover your eye and go walk your dogs. Cover your eye and drive. Cover your eye and cook. Cover your eye and do your makeup. That's how. I mean, if they really wanted to understand, and that again, I don't feel that I should put that much energy into breaking that down. Empathize, yes, but just honestly understanding, but just taking it for what it is. What absolute, like, what reason would I have if I'm able to formulate the words and let you know that there are so many times where I'm so scared because I can't see something coming or it's difficult to do this. What reason would I have to be dishonest about that? I'm not asking you to do it for me. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm telling you what I'm going through. And that's where that's the empathy, right? And I feel like with empathy, there is a sense of understanding. How can you not? You're feeding off
I
my
hear you. I tend to disagree with that, but I hear you.
So you feel, and I'm glad you disagree. That's why we're different, right? And that's why you're who you are, and I'm wonderful. But
Go ahead.
you feel that you should really break it down for someone to understand?
Absolutely
Is that
not. That's not what I'm
okay?
saying.
So what are you saying?
I say a person can't understand it unless they've been through it. You can educate yourself. You can read as much books, see as much videos as you possibly can, but unless you've been through it, you won't understand it. You can empathize with it, but you cannot understand it.
I would agree. I was under the impression you were asking me how would I get someone to understand? Oh, because I said the word understand. So, okay. Because I'm
Mhm.
like, well, I wouldn't want somebody to go through what I went through. I
Neither
don't
would
feel
I.
like somebody, I would never. Again, one of our topics, right? I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I
Right.
would not want anyone to go through what I went through to understand that. What I would want is for you to take the fact that I'm able to articulate myself, possibly, not all the time, but possibly. And if I'm telling you, this is what I'm feeling and this is how I feel, then take that. And that's it. That should not be questioned because it takes a lot for me to be able to articulate it as it
Yeah,
is.
and I'm with you on that. That's why I'm glad we're talking about this particular topic because with our invisible disabilities, people can't empathize with it, or they can patronize us. And that is very easily to be done because they don't truly understand what's going on. Because you can have, like you said, you have 20/20 vision in your left eye. So your left eye is doing a lot of compensating for that right side of your body. And sometimes it's spot on, and sometimes it's just off. And there is no switch that's going to happen that tells you that it's going to be off at this particular time and be on at this particular time. So people need to be empathetic to that. And whenever you say that it's off, you could be malicious and it could still be on it. You could still be right with it, but you try and catch your attention. But they should not be the judge of that, because some days we just need some time to process, to slow down. And basically that's what we're saying. No, don't be on my back. And if you can't handle that, that's a problem. So that's why I'm saying it's not about understanding, it's about being empathetic to us. Unfortunately, this is a hard situation for us. It's hard for people that's around us to deal with, but it's a learning process that everybody has to go through if they're going to be involved with a person that has invisible disabilities. So the reason why I brought that up is that even us as stroke survivors, people that has invisible disabilities, we get frustrated because someone doesn't understand what we're talking about. And I don't think they will understand what we're talking about unless they go through, like, I don't fully comprehend what you're telling me. Like, I could put this over my eye and then eventually I could take it off. You can't take it off. So I don't understand exactly what you're talking about. I could practice until I turn blue in the face, but once I get tired, it's like a grandparent. They can give it right back to their parent. They don't deal with the kids no more. You can't turn that off. So that emotional thing you had to deal with, I cannot connect to that because I don't know what that's about. But I need to be empathetic to you instead of saying, you know what? Oh, Christina, when I was 15, I couldn't see out my right eye for 2 weeks. What the hell is that doing for you? You know what I mean? Like, and let's just talk about my life. So when we start talking as people that are trying to be nice or to be sensitive to the situation, it's not about comparison. It's not about she's trying to lie to me or she's telling me the truth. It's about shut it up, listen, take your emotion out of the situation, and be patient and empathetic. Period.
I mean,
We will
I
appreciate
think
you more.
that's in general for people,
How do
not
people
just
get that, though?
people with stroke, who are dealing with someone who is stroke survivor. That's life in general,
I don't think people get that, Christina. I don't think they understand that. That was the frustrating thing for me. That's what I
who's
have
that?
learned after my stroke. Huh?
Who's they?
Some
Who you
people,
talking about?
there's a lot of people that don't understand that, Christina. I'm in the Northeast, so there's a lot of people think that you're playing around. Like, once again, a blessing and a curse that we have these invisible disabilities. Because I'm looking at you right now, I can just straight up talk to you. I'm like, oh, what's up, Christina? Da, 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 da. I wouldn't know that you're partially blind. I would take that for granted. And the same thing with me. They're like, oh, Greg, you're big and strong. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're a hunk. But yeah, I get it. But I have issues.
Who said you were a hunk?
Yeah, I'm using an old term word, but yeah,
Um,
hunk. I'm a hunk of love, baby. Hunk of love. But
Anywho,
yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that because we can't show it physically, people don't think it's there. They don't think it exists. So, all we asking for you to do as a person that's looking at us is to be empathetic. Don't patronize us. Don't try to understand, because it's going to be impossible for you to understand unless you're going through the same exact thing. Just empathize and just have a listening ear and be completely honest, and don't let your emotions take the better of you when you're discussing things with us.
and as a young stroke survivor, I think on the other end, like I was just explaining with, the eye patch and things of that sort. I think that it's important to not highlight every disability for yourself for someone else's recognition. To break that down, you don't have to show your disabilities for someone to believe that you're disabled. If you're having, does that make sense? If you're having a bad day or you're feeling off, you don't have to amplify it just so you can get your point across. And I say that because I know, just from speaking to people, media, and things, like, if just that day, for instance, me with the eye patch. The eye patch was absolutely doing nothing. I'm blind. I was wearing an eye patch over my blind eye. Hello. All I'm doing is letting you know something's wrong with my eye.
Right.
And I feel like I did that more for myself. I did that more for myself because I knew that my eye was going to get funny and I didn't want people to see it. And I see we have a question.
Mhm.
I'm I'm thinking that understanding and relating are different. Let me read that again. I'm thinking that understanding and relating are different. So understanding comprehension and relating comparison.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's what the statement is saying, that understanding is one and relating to it is another.
I would agree, Destiny, as it is, because I'm sure the majority of people don't have things that they can relate it to. So I would be in agreement. Did we say
I
that?
don't truly understand the statement. I don't, because I think it's semantics, relating and understanding. I think it's I don't understand it. I'm sorry I'm using the same word inside of it, but I don't. I don't. Because it's like this is the most best example I could give to people. Before social media, people used to look at me. Um, I don't know if I want to go there. I'll go to this. I'll go this. This might be even better example. I was out to dinner one time with two people from Europe. One was from Ireland and one was from England. And they was just talking back and forth, and they was talking about their coat of arms for their family. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. And I was like, yeah, I could go back 3 centuries of my generation of who I am. And they could do the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I said to them, I was like, I don't even know my last name. Like, you guys could go back 3 centuries of who your family are and what your coat of arm is. My last name was given to me. I don't know what my last name truly is. I know that my last name is from the plantation of Graham. That's who it is. And when I said that to them, they was like, wow, I never understood that before. Like, I didn't understand why Black people have this type of issue. That makes sense to me. They still don't understand the plight of the Black man or the Black people, or why I don't have a last name, how that would affect me. But they could empathize with it now, but truly understanding it, I don't think they could. So that was the best example I have. I have some other questions up here, comments on here. Feel free to read them. Miss Christina, can you see them? My
Mr.
sister, can you see them with the
You
2020?
doubling up on the sentences? Come on, baby. I can't. No, I'm joking. Mr. Doja says, being that I don't have outward signs of having a stroke, when people find out I had a stroke, they doubt that it happened. I've been asked if I was sure it was a stroke. I do look like I had one. Now, I
That's
would
what
say,
I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Christina.
Mr. Doja has, if you go check out his Instagram stuff, he's in music videos, he's rapping, he's very active. I wouldn't know you had a stroke, Mr. Doja. I would have been like, who's this gentleman? You must want me in a video. Absolutely. Invisible disability, right? Invisible disability, all jokes aside.
She's soliciting right now.
Huh?
She want to be a video vixen.
No, I don't. I'm my girls. I'm my girls vixen. So with that being said, Mr. Doja, I think that it's a beautiful thing that you, although having a stroke, are utilizing that kind of similar to what we were just speaking about. Tapping into abilities and bringing your music forth and bringing awareness while doing so. And I'm sure people even hearing your songs wouldn't put two and two together if you were in a lineup that was your song, or maybe you were rapping it about someone else. But I could absolutely, I know what you mean, Greg.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the blessing and the curse about having a stroke, and we don't have those outward um, disabilities or affectedness from the stroke. People don't believe it, and when we tell them that we have problems doing this, we have problems doing that, they're like, "Well, that's normal. You're a certain age. You're transitioning from being a young man to an older man." I'm like, yeah, but it's not that. It's been magnified. And, that's the problem that we have as stroke survivors that look like how we look. Like you say, Mr. Doja, he is a recording artist. He's doing tours. He's doing songs on stage, he's doing videos. How can he be a stroke survivor? He's supposed to be in bed laid up, can't walk. That's not the only type of stroke survivors is out there. Like yourself, you work and you blind in one eye.
Off three screens.
Yeah, on 3 screens. How does she do that? She adapted. This is what happens to us as people that have invisible disabilities. The major problem that I see that we have is dealing with people's issues of accepting who we are. And they want to fight us to say that we're something different than what we are. And we have to fight them back. I'm not fighting no more.
Nor should we. Also, our video for Just Another Day comes out July 17th.
Rah, rah, rah! I'm sorry.
It's definitely a rap song. It's not Buju Banton. Kamate. Anywho, all right, kids. Mr. Doja, always a pleasure. My closing remarks, besides obviously I'm going to let you all know where to follow us, is this. Again, happy Disability Pride Month. This is something that is not very well known. It's not spoken about, and I feel that it's very important, especially if you have a voice, especially if you have a platform to bring awareness to all of the stripes in which we spoke about. Tonight was the white stripe as far as invisible disabilities, and it was a pleasure being able to do this and to bring awareness. Again, if you haven't, please go follow and like and turn on your notifications for us on You're Too Young to Have a Stroke, on YouTube, on Instagram, and as well in our Facebook group. I, Christina, like to put up nice inspirational and questions, and like to hear more about you, your recovery, your journey, because you never know who's reading, you never know who's watching. With that being said, thank you for tuning into us, whether it's tonight live or you go back and you watch this. Greg and I are very grateful. Again, happy Disability Pride Month. Be prideful of yourself and find your abilities within your disability. We're out. Oh, see you next week, 8 p.m. Wednesday.
Peace.